Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you are having a lovely Wednesday. It is the end of February. I hope you've also had a great Black History Month. My name is Christian Stewart. I am the lead financial coach and founder of Do Better Financial. And like I said, I hope you've had a great February. This is the last day of February. And I also hope that you have had a chance to see the movie Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, because it was amazing. And you should go see it, even if you're not a huge fan of Marvel Comics. I think the story will resonate with you. It was very thought-provoking and fun. And for anybody who knows me, I am a person who does not like to spend a lot of money, and I would pay to go see this movie a second time. There's that. All right. So, like I said, we're back with Weeconomy Wednesday. I know it has been a little while since I've come to you guys with a video, but I wanted to chat with you a little bit about something that seems to be plaguing Americans at large. And you know, we're no different here in Texas or wherever you may be watching. So today I'm going to talk about overdrafts. So if you're not familiar with them, lucky you. Continue to stay in the dark. That means you probably have not had to deal with them. But overdrafts are basically when you either swipe or type or write a check for an amount of money over what you have available in your account currently. And so, for instance, if you go to the store and you spend $100 and then you only had $95 in your account, you would get what's called an overdraft charge for those $5. Now here's the kicker, right? Usually banks charge you somewhere in the neighborhood of $35 for an overdraft charge. And so the funny thing is, I actually looked this up, and most of the transactions that people get overdrafted for are usually less than $24, and they end up spending an extra $34 to $36 to cover that transaction. So something that originally cost you, you know, less than a nice car wash or a tank of gas now costs you, I don't know, maybe half a cell phone bill if you got a family plan, right? Something that was $24 now costs you $60. So that's crazy to me. And, you know, in a small chasm, obviously, you know, that's outrageous, right? You get a couple of overdrafts in a month, that becomes, you know, $60, $120. That stuff really starts to add up quick. But if you look at it on a large scale, for instance, CNN did a study and they actually found out that the banks made about $15 billion in 2016. I'm going to say that once. 15 billion with a B, not 3, not 6, but 9 zeros. $15 billion off of overdraft fees from American accounts. That's a crazy number. And you may be saying to yourself, how is that possible? I thought the same thing, but it's really true. People are struggling to keep up with their bank accounts. And so I want to talk to you about some of the types of fees there are, because a lot of people don't realize that not all overdrafts are created equal. So, you know, most people, especially if they're older, are familiar with bouncing a check, right? You write a check when somebody goes to cash it, you don't have enough money to clear it. Because we've moved to using debit cards, it doesn't quite work that way anymore. So there's 4 different types of fees that exist. So the first one is a simple overdraft fee, which is what I talked about. That's when you go to the store, they approve your transaction, you swipe it, but you didn't have the money in your account to cover it. So you're a bank. I'm just going to use Wells Fargo because that's who I bank with currently, one of my banks anyway. Wells Fargo would charge me a $35 or $36 fee. And so once they charge me that fee, you know, my account's in the negative, they're going to charge me that fee so my account goes further in the negative. So if in the example we talked about just a second ago, I spent that $100, I only had I had 95, that means my account's now in the negative by $5. They charge me a $35 fee, that means my account's in the negative by $40, right? That's a regular standard overdraft fee. I have to be honest, I have had one of these. It makes me so mad. Even now, I remember exactly what happened. I had signed up for a new car, right? I had a new to me car, right? It was used, but I was making payments on it. This was quite a while ago, probably like 2010. And I had signed up for car payments that would come out every 2 weeks, right? which isn't, it's not that uncommon. You do, instead of having it come out once a month or twice a month, I had it come out every 2 weeks, which meant that there would be months when I got charged 3 times, right? Well, here was the problem. I had forgotten that, and I had transferred some money from my savings account the day before, or some money to my savings account from my checking the day before. So when the car payment hit, I didn't have enough money in there to cover it, but I actually had the money, just in a different account. Now, as some of you know, there's something called overdraft protection, and what that does is it prevents what I just talked about. It would take money and transfer it from your savings to your checking account for you. Only thing is, that costs money too, right? That's our second fee. It's called overdraft protection. Typically, those fees are somewhere in the $12 to $15 range. So is it less than a regular overdraft? Yes, but you still ended up paying for not knowing where your money was and when, right? So those are the 2 types of fees that have to do with overdraft specifically. So those are for if your transaction is approved and you either end up in the negative or you would be in the negative. The other type is called an NSF, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. It will sometimes pop up when you're actually at the cash register. It'll say declined or insufficient funds. That's actually what NSF stands for. It's insufficient funds. So they will decline your purchase, and there are actually you can get charged for those as well, and those fees range. They're not as typical. There are some banks that charge, there are some banks that don't. If you have a bounce check, there usually are bounce check fees, so that's similar to an NSF, but there are usually bounce check fees. And then the last one is what they called extended overdraft fee. And this is a type of fee where excuse me, I just finished lunch. It was delicious though. This is the extended overdraft fee is if you leave your account in the negative for an extended period of time, just like it said. So usually they have some sort of threshold, 2 or 3 days. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 7. I think one of them I saw, it says it's going to charge you $15 for every 5 days that your account is in the negative. Well, obviously that's not very helpful to you. If your account's in the negative, you don't have any money in there to cover those fees, so they just keep compounding on one another, right? So those are the 4 different types of fees: your regular overdraft protection, insufficient funds fees, and extended overdraft fees. So depending on which type of fee you have, they're going to vary in the amount. But one of the there are definitely a couple of ways to combat this issue of if you're dealing with these types of fees. One of them is to read the fine print on your bank's terms and policy conditions. You need to look at those fees, figure out what they look like. Next, you can look at some of those things like overdraft protection, right? So if something does happen, it'll be a smaller fee and you can transfer money over. That's assuming you have money in an account that's attached to it. Usually they have to be at the same institution. So things like that. But the other one is also tracking your account, right? So keeping a close eye on it so that you don't get to the point where, you're in an extended period of not having of having a negative balance, or where you're in a period where it's really, really low and any transaction can push you over the edge. So tracking those, keeping track of it, having alerts set up. You also really need to be aware of what your bank offers as far as notifying you when you have overdrafted, or when they employ your overdraft protection. The way that this really gets out of hand very quickly is that they actually can charge you an overdraft fee for each transaction into the negative. So say for instance, I go to Target, Kroger, and Bed Bath & Beyond all in one day, right? And all 3 of those transactions are approved. Each one of those would incur their own fee, right? So that really starts to add up. All of a sudden you went to 3 stores and spent $100 at each, and now you've got a $75 worth of fees, or $90 worth of fees. I think I did that math wrong. I know I did that math wrong. Yeah, it's more like $100 worth of fees on top of what you already spent, right? So you're tripling and doubling and compounding the issue by not being aware of what's going on with your account. So you definitely want to look into those things. But I have some good news. There's actually a more foolproof way to present prevent overdraft fees. And that way is to create an intentional plan for your money. The more aware you are of what's coming in, when it's going out, and exactly how you need to handle it, how much you need for this day or the next day, the less likely you are to incur any of these fees. Now, I know some of them occur when we just don't have any money. If you lose a job, or if something weird happens with your paycheck, that stuff happens. But a lot of times, I'm going to be quite honest, more often than not, this is just a lack of planning. It's, I went to Target and spent $100 and forgot that, the light bill hadn't been paid yet because I didn't have a plan, or which was mine, or it's a situation where you're not keeping track at all, right? You're just swiping and swiping and swiping and swiping. So between those two situations, these can be managed if you make a plan and you're intentional about it. So here's the thing, making those plans does not have to be hard or difficult, and I'm actually going to be having a boot camp in a couple of weeks to help you with that process. So if you want to stop that paycheck to paycheck cycle, if you don't want to have to be worried about whether or not the last paycheck came in because you already have the money sitting in there to pay all the bills and you just needed to, have fun or whatever, I'm going to be hosting a boot camp that's going to help you break that paycheck to paycheck cycle and start getting rid of some of these signs that your wallet needs to work out. Overdrafts are signs that your wallet is out of shape and you need to get it into shape. And you can, right? This is totally possible, and I want to help you do it. So if you're ready to make that change, if you're ready to make a change in your budget, if you're ready to get rid of overdraft fees once and for all, I want you to come to this boot camp. The cost is $39. It's really not a lot when you think about it. This is like a Pandora subscription for 1 month, or name something else. It's probably like a cover charge at a club, maybe a week's worth of Starbucks. It's probably less than a week's worth of Starbucks. It might be 3 or 4 days worth of Starbucks, depending on what you drink. But it's $39. I want you to go and sign up at dobetterfinancial.com/bootcamp. It's going to be an Eventbrite page. All you're going to do is go in there, sign up and register. You're going to come join us on March the 10th at 11 a.m. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's not going to be stuffy. I'm not going to stand up there and just, drone on and on for 3 hours. We're actually going to get into the nitty-gritty of how you can start preventing some of these things and living the life that you want to live, because that's what this is all about. It's not just to prevent overdraft fees for the heck of it. It's like, oh yeah, I want to not have overdraft fees because what? Because that means that I'm not stressed out anymore, because that means that we can actually plan to go on vacation, because that means whatever that means for you. What goal do you have that you're trying to reach? Please leave it in the comments and we can chat about it in 2 weeks, or actually it's a little less than 2 weeks, about 10 days. Because today is 28th. Yeah, so March 10th at 11 a.m. Please sign up at dobetterfinancial.com/bootcamp. I cannot wait to see you there. Please forgive my tied tongue. It's going to be a great time. You can check out the location on there as well. There's also an event on Facebook, so if you want to go check that out, you can, and it'll take you to the Eventbrite page too. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let's get rid of these overdrafts and stop putting money in the bank's pocket. Time out for that. It's No Fail 2018. We're going to take all those money goals that you had at the beginning and we're going to make them a reality. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have an awesome rest of the week. See you later.